my house. Sometimes I need to move them because they are discovered. And I'm not hiding gold or jewelry or money, but as you might see from the sermon title, I'm hiding chocolate. Those of you who know me well know that I really am not a big fan of coffee and not terribly fond of soda. And so I find my daily dose of caffeine by putting a handful of chocolate chips in my oatmeal every morning. I also find I am a much more positive person if I have some chocolate in the afternoon. And in the evening, after dinner, a little bit of chocolate helps then too. Who am I kidding? A little bit is never enough. I prefer milk chocolate and dark chocolate. White chocolate isn't real chocolate, but it does swirl in nicely. I like chocolate in brownies and ice cream, and when it's covering potato chips or pretzels or popcorn or almonds or fruit like chocolate-covered cherries, even raisins. Sometimes I crave chocolate mixed with toffee or covering hazelnuts or with macadamia nuts. And let's not forget chocolate and peanut butter. That marriage made in heaven. Now, there are some higher-end chocolates that I must admit I can taste the difference between a good Swiss chocolate and like a American everyday candy bar. But that does not mean I'm going to turn away, Halloween candy that I have earned by trick-or-treating with my children. Now, my family, they all will tell you that they like chocolate a lot too. But I'm not so sure that they savor it the way I do. If you put some Ghirardelli squares in front of them, they'll gobble it right up. But I'm just not confident that they are appreciating it the way it needs to be valued. And so, I have hiding places. What I've come to learn, though, as I've been aging, is that too much of a good thing can lead to me not fitting in my pants anymore. And so this past year or so in particular, I've had to ration my chocolate and have smaller portions and actually read the serving size, which in some cases is ridiculous. Did you know that a serving size of Milano cookies is only 3 cookies? Who can eat only 3 cookies? It blows my mind. And I'm sure all this because in my journey of having less chocolate intake on a daily basis, and with all of my hiding places that sometimes are too good because I forget where I'm hidden them, I have to confess to you that on more than one occasion I have found I have committed one of the most deplorable sins. I have let chocolate go so long uneaten that it went bad. I know. Thankfully, we trust in a God of grace and that I will be forgiven. But it's hard to live with know I don't have to carry this burden alone. I have 3 other people in my home who will gladly sacrifice to make sure that no chocolate is wasted. But it's rough, because that means that someone else might eat the last chocolate-covered salted caramel and just eat it so fast they barely taste it. Or someone else might dunk their Oreo cookies not long enough, or too long. And so as I was reading today's gospel, I realized that I have some similar struggles as the man we heard about in Jesus' parable from Luke's gospel this morning. If you listen to the story, this man is described as foolish for doing the very thing that in today's society we would probably label as being responsible. He has worked hard for all he has. And so it's really just common sense that he should save it for himself. But I'm not quite sure that it's the saving action that is the foolish part. I think it has more to do with his false sense of security in himself and his lack of community. If you listen to this man speak in this parable, he is talking to himself, about himself, by himself. What should I do? Where should I store my stuff for myself? This man has excess. So much so that it's going to be a lot of work to deal with it all. Maybe more work than it's worth, and there's no guarantee that it will still be good when he wants it. But instead of including his family, his friends, his neighbors, 2 towns away, who might be in need, he is focused on how he can provide just for himself. And we watch as this man who still believes he needs more anticipates the day when he might have enough. And then we see him lose it all. I think what Jesus is reminding us of in this parable is how when we just live for ourselves, or even just those immediately around us, we can end up empty-handed. We all have been given gifts, and we are called to share those gifts. Our time, our talents, our resources, in order to change this world for the better. We were not created to live in isolation, but we were created for community, to share our burdens and our bounty alike. And we find that our load is lighter when we welcome others to the table, even if they don't seem to treasure our treasures. the way we think they ought to. With all that we think is ours, sometimes it traps us in. But we can be free as we include others. Because frankly, none of us will ever have enough left to our own devices until we feed and fill our neighbors. So whether it is how we spend our time, how we share our resources with those who are struggling, how we intentionally make room for those who have been historically excluded and marginalized, what matters is our relationship with God. And that relationship is made evident by our relationship with our neighbors, near or far. This week might be a big wake-up call for many of us to remember that we never know what day is our last. And we find that if we are so busy holding on to our stuff, our things, our space, that we can't let go enough and miss out on the opportunities to share the good news in word and action, to care for others and the whole world that God has made, to work for justice and peace, not just for ourselves. Then we too are foolish. In the very beginning of this passage today, there was a man who came to Jesus. And this whole parable was Jesus' response to him asking Jesus to intervene with his brother about their inheritance. And I think that man is all of us. When we start imagining that what is ours for the keeping. Because trust me, even the chocolate will go stale. And we trust that there is enough of God's love for all of us. And as we share it with others, that's where we find wisdom and abundance. Amen.
That's beautiful, Pastor. That's a beautiful service. That you